resources all in the same place. So it seemed like a win-win all around. And I like you, Erica. I've always respected
Ah,
you and your work and everything you've done. So I thought, can't go wrong,
that's
right?
true though. You were skeptical at the beginning. You were like, well, that
Let me
sounds neat.
know.
Just circle back when you have some more details because you really
Yeah.
have
Well,
said very little.
I will say too, I'm in Cincinnati. I run a space that we do a lot of networking groups for small business owners and entrepreneurs. So we hear a lot of, I have an idea. And we're always like, well, yeah, just, let us know when it launches. And I would say very few actually come back to us. So I'm always like, want to be encouraging and maybe a little realistic about it. So
Oh, well, thank
controlling my excitement for like when it actually goes. But you did it.
Well, I mean, I
Made it
feel
happen.
like pretty excited because it was really
Yeah.
about mid-March to the end of May to kind of like pull all of these pieces together and actually have something. And I just saw that Travis is on the line, which makes me super excited because Travis was at our first office hours. And I say Travis and I are long time coaching partners. And so, do you want to kind of share a little bit about what that office hours experience was like? And that was, just free as part of the membership. Would you mind touching on that, Travis? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dr. Pryor. I love getting put on the spot. You know me so well. Well, first and foremost, I'll introduce myself. My name is Travis Smith. I live in Baltimore right now. I am a 2019 Venture for America Fellow. What's up, Katie? Good to see you again. Um, what else? I currently I'm an associate at a nonprofit in New Orleans called Catalyst Ed, which is essentially an education consulting management nonprofit that connects educational leaders and educational experts in a multiple of different fields with different educational organizations or school districts to support them with all of their needs through project management. Specifically, I work on a team that is working with districts that are dealing with immediate relief, recovery, and response for school districts that have been tremendously impacted by everything going on with COVID-19. Um, as for that office hour session, so I joined the network. I became connected to Dr. Pryor through VFA, and she was one of the people who helped me navigate various parts of my match process. And so once she started launching this career network, I similarly was in a period of transition from my previous position to the one that I'm currently occupying now. And I mean, there was a lot of guidance that I needed. My first role was in business development for an education finance company. Now I'm in project management for an education nonprofit. I was very concerned about different ways to market myself as an individual, whether I should attune my resume to continue pursuing sales opportunities or to make myself look more like a Swiss Army knife because it could have been an opportunity to go somewhere else. Didn't know if I should stay in Baltimore, didn't know if I should keep looking for companies within the VFA network. I mean, there were just a ton of different things and I just needed some sort of sense of direction. And so that is when I came across Dr. Pryor launching the Career Network. And I absolutely got involved so that way I could get a little bit further than where I was, especially with the pandemic coming around and the shelters in places and curfews and all of that jazz. I mean, there were too many layers for me to try to navigate on my own. And quite frankly, I didn't feel like I had the experience or the acumen or the confidence to boldly go into whatever journey or pathway was going to be next for me. So I asked Dr. Pryor a lot about kind of how to navigate this space, different ways for me to be able to talk about myself and my interests, ways that I could utilize my resume to tell all sorts of stories. It was very much mapped out to kind of be along one track, which I think has done well for me, but I saw that this was a good opportunity for me to try to expand my horizons. I do have very little experience. I only graduated from Duke last May, so I'm only a year in the game as an adult, as a real person, paying real bills, doing real big boy things. And so coming into this next stage in my life, Dr. Pryor was extremely helpful in providing all of her guidance from her experience and helping me tailor my resume and understanding what skills can be cross-functional in a multitude of different roles and what sort of things education companies are looking at in particular, because it looks like the career track that I'm going on is education right now. And we'll see wherever the wind takes us. But I was really, really fortunate to have Dr. Pryor give me some where to start. I'd like to believe that a lot of her information was very helpful in me obtaining the job that I currently have now. So I'm really, really appreciative to have her help and her guidance.
And I think, thank you. That is so beautiful. And I think, part of those conversations were something like, time to pull on the big boy panties and put it together and just make a decision and own your part. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And so I appreciate that, because, a lot of people, when they say they want like real feedback and then they want to be able to utilize it, like, whatever the ginger way is that you do that, like, it still matters, because that's sort of, sometimes you just have to sort of hear the information and kind of get it out. So I do want to kind of give our guests, if they would like to take some time to introduce yourselves, Craig or Rhonda or Freddie. If you don't, like, that's okay. But if you'd like to take the time to introduce yourself as well, and I'd love to prompt you, and I'm going to put everybody on the spot if that's okay. If not, don't worry about it. But if you have like a give ask, so want to make sure that this is like a networking opportunity for you as well. And so if you kind of want to give us an idea of something that you have to offer other folks on the call, but then also a need that you have that someone may be able to meet or help you connect with. And then I want to make sure that I encourage everyone to put your email address or your LinkedIn profile in the comments section, in the chat section. That way we can all stay connected if we are not connected on LinkedIn or by email. So anybody want to jump in with a give ask? Craig, all right.
So, hey, Erica, thanks for inviting me onto this call. For those who don't know me, my name is Craig Chavis. I'm a business coach, but instead of helping people get into the workforce, I really help people to create their own careers. So I've been a serial entrepreneur my whole life, and I really focus on helping working professionals transition out of their 9-to-5 and create a business that works for them. So I'm kind of like a complement to what y'all do within this EPiC career coaching network. So how I know Erica is that when I moved back to Columbus last year, we met through a mutual connection, and we talked about the entrepreneurial startup space because I knew she was with VFA, but now we're co-board members with WITI, which is Women in Technology International, which has really been an interesting experience for me, being like the only male on the board. So I've learned a lot about what women go through in their business and working professional careers, and it's really humbled me, and I've learned a lot, and I've really enjoyed it. And it's been very humbling because I also have gone through my own issues as a Black male, and I've never been able to get into corporate America. And that's part of the main reason why I am an entrepreneur, because so many doors were blocked for me personally. But ultimately, I thrive in the gray area, and that's why entrepreneurship's been so good to me. So just wanted to introduce myself. And so I would say my big ask is that if there's anybody that you run across within like your coaching circles that you may think are interested in taking the entrepreneurial route, definitely send them my way, because there's some people who are best served as entrepreneurs, and then there's others who they shouldn't even step out of the 9-to-5. Like, they just need to stay where they're at. But if you know of anybody that has an entrepreneurial itch, send them my way, and I'll put my information in the chat box. So thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you, Craig. You know what? That's a really good point, because there are some people, and I have met them, And I'm probably like one of them who's just not really suited to work with other people. Like I've tried it again, I've reformulated, I've gone back to the lab, like I've come back like, you know, a new person, and it doesn't work well. So that was sort of part of my journey in coming to this space, is like, maybe there's a reason why I keep getting fired, and maybe I should like start taking the lesson learned there. So I think that's a really good point. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hey, Craig, do you coach on like, do you coach on that like decision making of like, should I quit my job and start a business? Or do you coach people on like getting into the business or at a certain level, or all the above?
The whole process, I mean, it really starts off with ideation. Because one of the worst pieces of advice is telling people to quit their job and just go along with an idea that isn't even bringing in any money yet. So that's something that I've seen so many people fail. So it's like a gradual of like heating up the pot, you know, starting with an idea, scaling it to a side hustle, and then getting it to where it's systemized, that it's working for you and generating enough revenue where you can feel comfortable leaving your job behind. So yeah, like to start with square zero, and then gradually, you know, work with them until they get to a point where they can transition out of their full-time job, but comfortably and strategically.
Good. So like the start, I don't know too much, that's the startup phase. I like that. Okay.
But that's like somebody who has made the decision that they have an idea they want to act on, it sounds like, right? And then you're helping them actually sort of figure out how to bring that idea to fruition. And as you said, scale it into something. So people who are probably really good freelancers might be good, or people like you said that already have a side hustle and have a full-time job but want to figure out how to make it into something. Sounds like your ideal client, Craig. Is that right? Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing.
A lot of people like that. I do, yeah, like there's always like in that in between, like, do I quit and go full time with this? And they don't know how to determine if their side hustle can go full time or not.
You know, I mean, speaking of, can your side hustle go full time? This person, Freddie, you have the most knowledge on can your side hustle go full time. So I am going to ask you to please introduce yourself.
Well, I just popped in because I was just curious to see how things were going. But as for me, so about maybe 3 years ago, I went full time, launching my own startup called Sweat Seal, which is a custom undershirt company, or a custom undershirt that prevents people from getting sweat stains. And I just said, hey, this is a problem I go through. I wonder if I can make a product that other people will be interested in, and eventually evolve that product to becoming a business. And for me, I had the most, thankfully, that thesis actually ended up working out, and we ended up getting in the 6-figure of annual revenue. But eventually, once the company got rolling, it got to the point where, all right, I'm essentially a drop shipper, and I wasn't getting the self-fulfillment that I wanted to. So I also made the decision, as once sales weren't kind of hockey sticking up, I actually wanted to go back into the workforce. I think that's how kind of I reconnected with Erica, a number of people in the VFA network. I was a 2015 VFA fellow. And through just the amazing connections of Erica and coaching that she gave me about 2 years ago, I was able to re-enter the workforce, end up working in internal corporate consulting for a hot second. And definitely that coaching was valuable, knowing that, hey, I had a startup, it was relatively successful, I did everything I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to achieve more. And I could definitely getting all the support to kind of navigate those kind of career waters was very beneficial for me. So that's kind of a little bit about my background.
I mean, Freddie's being like really modest in that he did, you know, like raise a lot of capital. He did have like a global t-shirt company. He did like meet with Damon John. Like he did a couple of things. So he's being a little bit modest, but I think what was really interesting during those transition conversations was, you know, how do I position my experience as a young entrepreneur for the first time to go back into corporate world? Because for a lot of people, they look at that experience and feel like, well, corporate is so completely different. How will you be happy here? You know, how can this be like an interesting place for you? It's not gonna operate at the same pace. You're not gonna have the same sort of level of flexibility. And so I think that was like a big nexus around the conversations we had, was really sort of understanding what kind of corporate space you would want to pursue and what kind of role was going to give you that early startup feeling, because once it gets rolling, which is the sign of a serial entrepreneur, somebody who likes to create things over and over and over again. So,
Exactly.
you know, but once it gets rolling, you're not as interested. So what's the corporate environment and space that's going to give you that? So can you talk a little bit about where you are now?
Yeah, so right, and it was a perfect transition. So I ended up I was still in Columbus, working for Worthington Industries, which is one of the country's largest steel processors. And I'm going from and essentially selling undershirts, working in processed steel. But again, I didn't know all the different functions in the corporate environment. So within Worthington, they're about $5 billion company. They have a internal corporate strategy and innovation team, and the whole focus of their team is saying, hey, yeah, we do a lot of processed steel, the steel that goes into cars, steel that goes into road signs, but what other markets can we go into that our steel can service? And our job as the corporate strategy team is to look to do some market analysis, and then do some kind of internal consumer research and see what markets we may enter that can help the company grow. So a lot of kind of researching customer bases, doing kind of voice of customer work, doing customer analysis, lots of things that kind of are more associated with startups, but are needed in large scale corporations to grow. And I was able to find this a great role with great mentors that, like Worthington Industry, you think old Midwestern, traditionally non-minority people in that space, but both my managers were just kind of both high power African-American males who went to kind of top business schools, who were really there wanting to kind of mentor and develop me. So that was, like, Eric was like, hey, Freddie, I'm gonna put you in contact with these couple of people, have lunch with them, hear them out. I think there's some interesting opportunities in this company and people who will definitely be there to help lead you in good places to your career. And 2 years later, that definitely rang true.
I just remember when you sent me a text message and you were like, I got a corporate card. They gave me a corporate card. I was like,
per diem? What is per diem? That you can just swipe it and then you expense it and that's it? Like, if it's between 9 to 5, it's on the company's dime. Okay.
You were like, okay,
new.
now I'm seeing the distinctions between corporate life and startup life. Now I see some things. So
it was definitely a cultural shift. It's not that sweet. Things have come COVID.
Right. Now, before I let you go, Freddie, do you have any gives or asks that you could put out there today?
As for gives, I say, hey, make sure if you get invited to events, attend. Now more than ever. You'll make sure that you just maintain your network. I always kind of, network is a phrase that I just maintain people that you care about, keep in contact, reach out, make sure the people that you care about are doing well, because we're in kind of definitely challenging times now. So give a second, I got myself a number of check-in texts I really appreciated, and make sure that the people that you value, that know that you value them back. So I guess that's my, /give/ask.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. Anybody else on a give or ask? I think, Katie, one of the things that we had talked about as a give or an ask is that there is an abundance of information that is filtering out every day. To me, it feels like a fire hose in terms of resources that are available for small businesses, for entrepreneurs of color, for women, whether they're at the state level or the county level or what have you. And so one of my asks is that if you have some kind of resource that you are sharing with people, or you are collecting resources, or you have a document, or you've got a newsletter where you're kind of listing these, I'd love to be a part of that mailing list or get access to that. I think one of the things that I want to do is be able to, continue to circulate that information out to my network, especially those people that are probably like ideal clients for Craig, that are looking to figure out how to start and launch something, and what that process can look like. Now is really the time where people of color and women, I think, like, have a space and opportunity. So if there are like platforms or channels that people are leveraging, I think, Rhonda, would I see you on columbusblack.com a couple weeks ago? Yes, and I was on there with Kevin Lloyd yesterday, doing the live broadcast, which was really impactful. So I don't know, Craig, if you've done that or not, but I'm going to make sure that I leave that information in the comments, because that's a free platform. ColumbusBlack.com has a really wide readership that certainly circulates outside of Columbus, a lot around like DC and Cincinnati and Chicago, and to other very brown cities. So it's a great platform to leverage. So if there are other resources like that, like, please feel free to send them my way. So that is my ask. And of course, my give is that the EPiC Career Network is a free online membership community as a starting point. And so feel free to join it. If you have not, feel free to send that along to other folks that may find that useful. Any other give asks?
I'll introduce myself so I'm not the lone wolf. My name is Rhonda Talford Knight, and I do everything around diversity, equity, and inclusion. I have a PhD in social studies and global education from The Ohio State University. And so I have my own consulting firm, but I've also double dipped while in corporate, and when I was in higher education as well. So I know what it means to do a startup, as well as do it to the point where you have to make the decision, am I going to stay in this full-time corporate role? And so I was fortunate enough that when I did go into corporate, that they allowed me to continue to consult. Going in at the executive level, there are many executives that do other things, sometimes speaking, and just those that are called on for those types of things. And so I didn't do much of the strategy work while I was in corporate, but just some of the other problem solvings for organizations. Coaching, actually do a little bit of coaching, but it is all diversity related coaching. Sometimes that coaching can be with an executive that is dealing with a discrimination case. And so right now, actually working with a CEO and some of their folks to help them through that. And then coaching to get folks, when they don't have an actual DEI team, coaching them to get to the space of what it means to do the work. And so that's part of the coaching that I do, primarily, literally around DEI. And Freddie, I have to say, I actually have a contract with Worthington Industries right now, but it has been placed on hold due to COVID-19. And so it was really perked up me, like, Worthington Industries, because I've heard of the innovation team. You guys are doing some great things over there, from what I understand. Glad to see that. Sounds like you weren't furloughed. And okay, yep, okay, because I know that they were going through some things. But so I'm fortunate enough to be able to have a variety of clients, whether it's Fortune companies or nonprofits. And so that's primarily what I do. But I also do, so when I say all things diversity, I also do diversity recruitment. And so one of the things that, Eric and I connected on was, even what does it mean to utilize what she does from a sourcing perspective. because sourcers can get paid. And so just because I do diverse recruitment doesn't mean that I always source for talent. And if I do, so I will sometimes do the second leg up. So I get, what the sourcer has brought to the table. I make sure that they're solid candidates. I prep them and get them ready. And I'm actually kind of proud right now because I think this one young lady is about to get, not young lady, one woman is about to get hired. And so really talking with Erica, what does it look like? Because sometimes those resumes do come in, and while we can look at them with an eye and a lens of this, they definitely have that skill set, it may not necessarily tell the narrative that's needed for an HR in-house recruiter or the hiring manager. So Eric and I had an initial conversation because I think there's some synergy there in helping folks to, tweak their resume. I know I did it with just the one candidate, but I think there's always opportunities for partnerships to help folks through that. So I met Erica. So that would be my ask is my give. Let me say what my give is. My give is any way I can support and help what you guys are doing. That's, if I have the time and the space, that's pretty much how I look at it. As you can imagine, I'm probably a little bit busier now than I was a couple months ago. And with that being said, I love that, Rachel, that piece that you talked about, people who say they're going to do something when they say startup. So I was fortunate enough because of my experiences to understand global distribution, MBEs, and really was able to pivot to actually start selling PPE as well. Understanding what the global supply chain looks like, what it means to make connections. I had some connections globally. And so even when I talk to people, when I do diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's interesting because they see black and white. And I'm trained global with a global understanding. I can do the race stuff, but it is definitely can do the race stuff. But my mindset is really all encompassing when I talk about diversity, because it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, not just diversity. And so understanding what it means to pivot, but then also understanding what it means to pivot and having the right partners when you do so. And so I was fortunate enough to partner with someone and to do that pivot and make a little bit of money while doing so at a fair market value, but leveraging relationships in doing so as well. So my give is, that's my expertise. That's the space that I'm in. If I'm available, use me. Eric and I, ironically, we met, the first time we met, it was in a room, and I was learning about her and what she does, and was thoroughly interested and thought things were going to trickle into the next iteration of something. But as we know with startups, some can move very fast paced and some can move at a very slow pace as well. And then sometimes when doing a startup, folks think they know where they're going, but if there's not this bigger picture, then they end up in a very different space.
It fizzles out fast.
It fizzles out fast. And so I go back to what you say, Rachel, I'm that, here's the idea, ready, set, go type person. But you have to have the space to do that, because even when we did PPE, my partner and I, we had to make sure that there was money in the bank to do so. And so understanding even that, so we could tell our clients, 3 to 5 business days, but it was because we were doing the initial purchase. So again, I think knowing who to partner with and knowing who blows smoke, because they have great ideas. And so I go to what Freddie said, there are folks that, when I think about corporate, I think about this as well in nonprofit, but in startups. There are folks that are strategic, and then there are folks that are tactical. And when you're in this startup space, you have to be strategic and tactical. I know some people use the word creative, but in corporate, there's just a different type of language, and it's strategic and tactical. And so when you're tactical, that means that you're able to actually execute on those things. There's so many people with great ideas. But a lot of times, sometimes it is when they don't have the right partner to execute on. And so Yeah, that's it. But Eric and I sit on the board. So Erica, Craig, and I sit on the board of Witty together.
Yes, Women
And
in
that's how we stay
Technology
connected.
International. That's how we know each other. We're the three
Yep.
people who are like technically not in technology. So,
Well, and so this is what a lot of people
well,
don't
not in technology in the ways
Yep.
in which people traditionally think about it from an IT space. I'll say it that way.
Right. So exactly, not the practicing, but what a lot of people don't know is that when I did my master's work and actually leading into my doctorate, that was really the work I was looking at, was the marginalization of looking at how technology was not used and how to leverage technology in urban and rural classrooms to increase their skill sets, access, and opportunity. And guess what? Ironically, 20 years later, what are we talking about?
Bingo bango. I love it. That is full circle right there.
Pure insane. Well, and it's sad because it's 20 years later, but yeah. So
now, I mean, hey, if it's 20 years later and you still get to be relevant, I think that that's pretty impactful. So
yeah, because that sat in the corner. That literally, that certification in technology and all the work I did sat in the corner. Yeah.
Did you hear that, Travis? So Rhonda, maybe somebody you want to reach out to around that certification question, because she did just say that hers sat in the corner for 20 years, but now she has been able to utilize it. So if you only have to wait 20 years to use a certification, like, still know that it's worth it. Just keep
it's worth it. Well, and then not only that, but I'll also say, Travis, that, you know, I've been able to play in so many different spaces. And so I heard you say, it looks like I'm going to be in the education space. My first space was actually business. So,
really?
Yep. So I went from financial industry to P12 to higher education. And then during that time, I was able to connect with organizations, businesses, because of my expertise across the board. And so if there is something else that you want to do outside of education, I really believe it gives you a strong foundation when you couple it with business. So when you have a business understanding coupled with education, I think you're unstoppable. That's just my opinion.
Definitely. And I mean, for what it's worth, like, I guess I'm very open to where anything like ends up. It just so happens that the path of like where my career trajectory is going just so happens to be education. So maybe there's something there. Maybe it's a happy coincidence. I'm just, right now I like my job. So we just gonna let it rock like that. And we gonna keep trying to like it, knock on wood. And hopefully it stays that way, you know? But honestly, I do think that the biggest thing about it is that I am, you know, like it because the way how this always just plays out is so unpredictable. I want to be prepared as I can be. So that's also a big part of like what this is about for me and about navigating that journey looks like for me, especially since I'm so new to it.
Well, and you know what, I also think it's one of those moments of like, hurry up and be ready, right? Because there's a lot of things that come out that are very cutting edge and that are really innovative, and people simply aren't ready for it yet. It's just not its time. But having, as Rhonda said, like having that training and experience and the certification behind you when it does emerge and the time is now, like you do have the opportunity to really strike while the iron's hot, you know? And so that, you know, that's one of the things I could appreciate more, given that my dissertation is in and around lynching photography and presentations in American museums. So I feel like, you know, there's never been a better time to be one of 10 people in the world that happen to have some really nuanced knowledge about that, to be able to offer that. So it did sit around for 10 years. It's probably been read by 3 people, that dissertation, but now I'm getting some action. So I'll go ahead and I'll run with it. So that I want to ask if there's anybody else that wants to take the floor. Otherwise, I want to make sure that we briefly stroll through the platform and just kind of do a little demo of some of the things that we've got on there and talk a little bit about the next event we have coming up later on this month. But is there anybody that wants to chime in? Rhonda, did I see you say yes? Oh, no, sorry. Feverishly, no. Craig.
Hey, I'm gonna say I gotta go run real quick, but thanks for having me on, and I'll be in touch. So this is awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Craig. Thanks for joining us. Cool. Anybody else? All right, great. I am going to screen share, I believe. Oh, there's a lot of screens open. All right. Can you guys see my screen? Empowering you. Okay, great. So before we jump to the platform, I wanted to let you know about our next event that we have coming up. It is going to be a surefire winner, how to make your career pivot a success. I really love this topic. Like, that is why it's the second topic that we are diving into in the existence of this thing, because I really love it. Like, I think it is something that everybody has to do at some point in time in their life. Like, you just have to if you work for most of your life. And so really kind of hearing other people's success stories in and around maneuvering career pivots and, you know, going from very different environments from corporate to entrepreneur and then back again. It's just like it's very inspiring. And so, and gives you great ideas. And so these three women have like career pivoted all over the place with like major success. And they are going to each share a couple of the lessons they have learned about their success and their unsuccessful career pivots like in the last 10 or so years of their career. So I definitely invite you to participate in the event. This will be a free event for people who are members of the EPiC Career Network online community. So if you haven't joined yet, then I encourage you to do so. You'll get your coupon code that way. And then you can always not join and pay a small fee to help us keep things moving on the Career Network. So this will be Thursday, June 25th at 1 p.m. So I will make sure that I send out this information to everyone so you have an opportunity to register. But Stephanie Galloway, Erin Horn McKinney, and Aislene Rodriguez, three powerhouse women of color who are going to give us some straight talk about going from corporate to startup, founder, to government in a couple instances, and back. Actually, all three of them have been in government and back again. So I think that'll be an interesting conversation. So if you come here and you're like, hey, I'd like to join the EPiC Career Network, you can click on this link, which will take you to our landing page. And so here, again, what we're really confident and excited about is empowering you to find and do your most authentic work. I'm really, you know, in the niche of serving women and people of color. So I believe that you have to see yourself to know that it is for you. So that is a lot of what we try and do in a lot of the imagery. And so here's the kind of introductory information. I love this platform. So if anybody wants to talk platform like at a later date, I would be happy to talk with you about this platform and how it really serves as a great empty container with a lot of flexibility to do a lot of different things because, you know, my technology is very conceptual. Like, I don't actually build anything. And so to be able to find like a very strong platform that offers a lot of what you're looking for, it can be really challenging. So this is great. So we have some information about who we are and why you should join. And then a big thanks. And so we're working right now, it is a free platform, but eventually we will monetize membership. But right now it's free. So it's a great opportunity to get in as an early stage user, especially if you're working with people that may need a little coaching, but don't really want a little coaching. So you can go ahead and click your join. I'm just going to sign in here. All right, and so after you join, it'll look like this, most likely. And this should look pretty similar because it's pretty much your basic social media network feed. Over here in the menu, we've got home and some other areas. So I'm going to show you a couple of them. You can customize your kind of home network feed to really whatever makes the most sense to you. You can switch the view for it and determine what you'd like to see when you log in. Right now, this is just on both my personal feed and list activity, which as a chief community builder, I spend the most time on the platform doing a lot of the activity. So if you go over to discovery, you can get kind of more of a dashboard view of what content and who's on the site and what's happening. So we've got top posts, we've got members, upcoming events, and then different areas that we've identified, and then any featured events. And you yourself as a member can organize this screen to look any way that you want through the manage. So you can kind of just organize it. I obviously want to see as much as possible, but there are lots of different options, which is really nice to kind of give you a sense of, again, like what do you want to care about? Another interesting thing is that all members are going to be, you're going to be able to see all of the members that are on the site. So we've got all of our members listed here. First, we've got the hosts and then moderators, who are other individuals that are connected to the site. And then other folks joined the site as well. This is my model brother, Christian, by the way. So I was like, really, is that the picture you have to put up? Like, you're making everybody else look bad. Like, is there something else? But no. So these are folks that have joined, which is great. And then about, which gives you a little more information. So I'm excited to this weekend do some video recording. My protege is on vacation. And so we're going to add some additional video welcomes here for folks to get a greater sense of who's on the site. And then kind of go from there. And then we have topics and events. So topics just really help organize a lot of the articles or videos or polls or questions that are coming out during the course of the month. And so you can kind of click into some of these resume results, for example, was what we had last month for May. And so these are some of the different posts that we created and activities that went on in the site. So topics is a great way to kind of consolidate information and get a look at it very quickly. And then we have a great events section, which we use pretty regularly. So today we're at the network happy hour. Then we have office hours every Tuesday from 1 until 2 p.m. So any of those you can click in. We're June and we're focusing on career pivots. And then you have the information to go ahead and just quickly join the meeting through there. And you can also indicate if you're coming, especially if you have specific questions or there's a specific coach that you might want to talk to that's going to be during those office hours. And those office hours are free to network members. So you can jump into those, no cost. We love to chat with you and answer kind of your quick questions that you might have, or like pressing issues. Let's say you've got a application you're trying to get out the door, or you need to prepare for an interview and you're trying to kind of get in the right mind state for that. Like, we can have those conversations and tackle those. And then we haven't done much with interests in circles, so there's not too much to say there, but right now that's where we're building out the site. And how to make your career pivot a success is our next event. So I have pretty much like run through our agenda, and I just want to thank everyone for coming on and offering your feedback and being a part of the first launch. And hopefully there are many more milestones to come. So thank you very much. And I will see everyone again soon. Bye.